Man, life is one weird motherfucker, I'll tell you. Um, I have no idea what is going on constantly. Um, so many changes, so much coming my way, and so many things I have provoked, so many things that are coming to me. It's all just pure confusion at this point, you know? I thought I had gotten a grip on these things, and in all honesty, I have no fucking idea, you know? I don't know who I am. I don't know what I want. I don't even know where I'm heading. Don't know what I'm gonna do. And not knowing is kind of cool. I think that's kind of the point of life. It's been a weird time, man. Since 2025 started, it's been fucking weird. You know, I've been much more open. I've been much more. I wouldn't say careless, but a lot less worried. I used to be worried all the time. I let it get to my head. I thought that worrying was like something productive or something that would help, but it doesn't. It only hinders. Worrying doesn't change situations. Um, it's been weird, man. I've been acting more and more the way I wanted to act in the past, but that came with a lot of anxiety. It's for the first time in my life, I'm having anxiety attacks, you know. And I've been anxious most of my life. That's nothing new. It's just it never condensed that way, you know. I've never been that anxious like in spurts, and there's beauty to it, you know. I can see the beauty in it, and I think that's the beauty of youth for me right now, you know. I don't know where I'm heading, and I don't really care. It doesn't really matter as long as I can live my life, you know. As long as I'm here, I'm aware that nothing is certain. You know, I could die tomorrow, and then that's okay. There's nothing I can do about it. You know, sometimes I look at my past, and I want to mourn it, and I wish it could have been different sometimes, and then I remind myself that it's the only way it could have been. You know, that was me doing my best back then, and I cannot do more than my best, and I couldn't have done more than my best. You know, it's impossible to transfer the knowledge I have now to who I was then and act differently. The knowledge I have now could have only occurred from the things that I've done in the past. It's kind of a painful irony of life. After you've made the mistake, if you're smart, you learn from it, and you know to not do it anymore. But that situation has already passed you by. The mistake has already been made, you know. And afterwards, you know you shouldn't have done it, or you know what you should have done differently. But all this recounting of the past, and all these thoughts about doing things differently or whatever, you know, they're unproductive anyway. They won't lead you anywhere. It's good to assess a situation, to review your action, but reminiscing about what it could have been or where you could have been now is quite the useless endeavor, I find. You know, it's all like this trance state. You know, it's I'm not I'm aware, but I'm not. You know, I'm letting time pass through me at this point. My conception of time has been very weird. I don't really understand it anymore. I feel like the present moment is everything, and at the same time it kind of doesn't exist. And reality itself, man, like I recently got it through my head finally that we're just little perceivers, you know. Our brains perceive a limited amount of information from what is going on around us, and our brains try to make predictions based on that information. They try to figure things out, or to predict, but we will never have enough information to make reliable prediction. You know, you can be right most of the time if you're lucky, but you'll never be right 100% of the time. And I found personally that when it comes especially to interacting with people, I'm rarely right. You know, when I get anxious for meeting someone, or when I'm pursuing someone romantically or whatever, I become very anxious, and I make all these scenarios in my head. And what I've learned over time is that if I imagine it, it probably won't happen, because it almost never happens the way I think it will. And I think that's the beauty of it, you know, not knowing. I'm at the point right now where I don't want to know. I don't want to know what my future will be, because what if it's boring? I don't want to. I don't want a boring future. I'm tired of boring. I have lived the first 2 years of university as an ascetic almost. You know, trying to bar pleasures, trying to isolate and figure my own feelings and my own inner workings. And I find, for me personally, at this point in my life, I've done that work, and it became a limitless pursuit, an endless an endless circle, because I feel like part of my mind will always overthink, will always find something new that isn't right. And feeding that part of my mind, I don't think is the right thing anymore. I don't want to take apart every single thought I have. I just don't want to take them seriously anymore. Every time I'm alone, my mind goes into overdrive, and I think of all these things. I I just go on and make scenarios and think of the past, and it feels like sometimes my mind is just looking for something to latch onto as an excuse to feel a certain way, or I just start feeling that way and find things to latch onto to perpetuate that feeling. And I wasn't even aware I was doing this until recently. So that's why I've been embracing much more the randomness of life. It used to piss me off. I wanted to control everything, and now I have accepted that I have jack shit in terms of control over most things, and it's all so confusing, and it feels like I'm in the middle of a thunderstorm, but I love it now. I'm not trying to swim against the currents anymore. I'm going where they take me, because I understood that by going against it, I'm only tiring myself out for no reason. you know my life has begun the moment I understood that I'm not in control of most of it. you know as the Stoics say, you can only control your own mind, and even that you cannot control that fully, ever. If my mind decides I'm going to have an anxiety attack, I'm going to have an anxiety attack, whether I want it or not. So the difficulty comes rather from accepting how much you don't truly control it, and that's where you gain a bit of freedom. You become free when you accept that you will always be restrained by things. True freedom, in my opinion, and this is an ideal, nobody has true freedom, but true freedom ideally does not come from having no restraints, but rather from choosing your restraints, choosing what rules you live by, choosing your limits, because you need limits. you know Lack of limits is not freedom, it's a prison. It's a complete prison. There's nothing you're going to do without limits. Everything needs to be limited. Our physical form here on earth limits us, and without that limit we couldn't interact with the things around us. If solids weren't solids, you couldn't pick them up, you couldn't do shit with them. you know and that's where we are here now. It all boils back to accepting the present. I wish sometimes I wasn't in this prison made of flesh that is my body. My body limits me a lot. I have quite a few health issues at the moment, and I feel limited by them, and I feel annoyed, and I'm in pain very often, and that's okay. Pain is part of life. I've been in some sort of pain for almost every day of my life for years, and that's okay. And I'm not saying this to complain. I'm not here to cry about it. Fuck it, that's life. That's how it goes. I'm here to say that there's beauty in it. Embracing the pain is freedom. Because I could wish that the pain wasn't here all day, every day. I used to. But that's useless. The pain is going to persist either way. So I would rather take it like a champ, as much as I can, and not let it bring me down, and not take it seriously. Because when I take it seriously, and this applies to mental pain as well, when I take it seriously, I feel like I'm amplifying it, I'm giving it away into my mind. And here's where I come back to what the Stoics tell us. You're gonna have your thoughts and feelings either way. The point of Stoicism is not to stop those things. You cannot. That would make you no longer human, as that one book. The point is not to stop them. Rather, the point is to choose as much as you can which ones you take seriously or not. Which thoughts you take seriously, which thoughts you act upon. That's the point. You don't choose what thoughts you have. You don't. You choose what you do with them to a certain extent. It seems part of every core religion and philosophy that you have to start from this idea that you have some sort of agency, or maybe not all philosophies, but most of them. You start from this idea that you have agency. And I think a truth that many are not willing to face is that most of your actions are determined by your genetics and your upbringing and your experiences growing up in your environment. That's what determines who you are. You don't determine who you are really. The environment you were born in, the family you were born in, the genetics you're given, those are what determine you for the most part. Becoming aware of this limitation, is what halfway breaks you free of it, actually, because then you are aware. Oh, okay, I do this because of this trauma. I do this because when I was little, this happened to me. Or maybe, my mind is very anxious. This is how my mind is. I don't know why, but I accept it nowadays. It's okay. That's who I am right now. Maybe I won't be like this forever, but I understand that I have little agency in the fact that my mind is like this. I choose how to control it, and this is an interesting part of it as well, because I was thinking about when it gets really bad. Sometimes I think about like taking substances of sorts, maybe drugs, maybe alcohol, which is also a drug. Maybe like legitimate clinical stuff like Xanax or whatever. Never took any, but like, who knows? And I think of it and I realize like even that is not gonna fix the issue. It only works for as long as you take it, and I don't want to be dependent on it if I can. I'd rather not be dependent on it. I'd rather take my difficulties the way they come at me, because I'm lucky enough that my difficulties can be taken that way. I've been given enough to bear. I can bear the difficulties I have been given. I don't know if everybody has the luxury. I think I do at the moment, which I'm very thankful for. Even though I speak very bleakly right now, the point I'm trying to make is that I'm in my youth, and uncertainty doesn't really. I don't think in your youth uncertainty should bother you too much. I think that's kind of the point of your youth, and I think, and when I say youth, I think this mental state could last me a lifetime. This kind of embracing the uncertainty. I saw a video yesterday that said some men are built for the journey, not for the destination, and I genuinely think I'm one of these men, or at least I identify with that at this point in my life, because all the destinations that I wanted have crumbled before me. There are things I don't have access to right now, either because of health issues or because of the way things have panned out, or past choices, or things outside of my control. And I realized that there's a beauty in the journey itself, and I don't have to think of the destination. Of course, I'm not going to be reckless. I'm not going to take stupid decisions. I'm not an advocate of hedonism at all. It's rather, I'm going to continue to act how I think is right, but I want to be detached from the outcomes. Because one of the most disappointing things that happened in my life was when I came face to face with the fact that regardless of how much I tried, and I gave it everything, man. I gave it everything. Regardless of how much I tried for a few things that I really wanted, and I'm not going to mention what they are because it really doesn't matter. Regardless of how hard I tried, it didn't happen, man. It didn't happen. It all got thrown back at me. I pushed for 2 years with everything I had, not an inch of progress, Not the results I wanted. Of course I made progress. Of course I changed as a person, and I'm glad I did it. And that's kind of the point. I'm glad I did it. Even if it didn't happen, I'm glad I did it. Because I learned a lot about myself, and I now understand that the point is that I did it, not that the outcome came or didn't come. That's the point. The point is I did it, and I'm happy I did. Yeah, man. I don't know. It feels like I think what I'm experiencing right now can only be felt. And I think that's a lot of the human experiences. Words are very limiting, you know. It's very a very difficult thing to express the true human experience in words. You can't. It's scary that we think in language, you know. I think thinking in language kind of limits our potential to feel and understand life in different ways. Of course, language is necessary and it's a beautiful thing, but we automatically start thinking in language as soon as we learn it. You know, our thoughts have language to them, or the limitation of images. You know, people have different kinds of thinking. Some people see images. Some people have a narrator in their head. I'm a person with a narrator in my head, and it's limiting, man. All those things are limiting, and of course, as I said earlier, limits are necessary. But sometimes you can just peek above the fence and see what's there. You know, what's beyond the way I think right now. What is there to just feel, to just experience. You know, the present moment for me feels like I'm not even here physically. You know, even though my limitations are here, my mind is not. And I'm in the present moment completely. And that's the scary part for me. Whenever I'm in the present moment completely, I don't feel like it's anything is real, you know. And that's fine. You know, if it's real or not, it doesn't really matter. It seems scary at first, but it's just the way things are. You know, you have to accept that you don't know anything for certain. Anything. Everything you see could be completely fake. It could all be an illusion made by your mind, made up by your mind. And I'm not going to go into solipsism over here, but you cannot disprove it. You know, it could be like that. And that's the terrifying truth. It could be. But anyway, I think I kind of said what I wanted to say. Yeah, that was about it for today, man. This was what I had to say on the philosophy of youth, or at least how I view it right now. I'm 21 years old. I'm in a weird spot in life. I have no idea what I'm going to become. And I love it, man. I love it. I want it to keep going like this.